Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Now before we get started, I do want to give you a heads up. I am using a new camera this time around and moving forward, so if picture quality is kind of meh, or things are just out of focus, or just generally things don't look great, give me some time. Still working on learning this camera. It'll take a little bit of time. In the meantime, we're gonna take a look at this image that I have up on my screen, and I'll show you here in a minute. But I saw this on a Facebook Marketplace posting, and it's really the reason that I think a lot of people have a really hard time figuring out the PC market and getting into PC gaming in general, or just building their own computers, because listings like this just confuse consumers, especially if they are new to the space, if they're new to trying to find their own components, that sort of thing. It can be really hard to figure out what used components are actually what you're looking for, what used components are drastically overpriced, and what's new on the market, because let's face it, companies don't exactly give you naming schemes that make it easy to learn what products are new versus old. Now obviously it's an extreme example, but take into account NVIDIA's recent graphics cards releases. They have, the RTX 2060, and then they have the GTX 1660 and 1660 Ti's. And it's really hard to imagine, or it's hard to see from an outsider's perspective if you haven't been keeping up with the release cycles for NVIDIA, that those cards are on the same architecture. It's just that the 1660, 1660 Ti's are a little bit less powerful and they don't have ray tracing on board. But if you're just seeing the model numbers, you have RTX 2060 and GTX 1660, you don't really know there's a relation there. So enough of me babbling about it. Let's go ahead and take a look at this listing. This is for a CPU motherboard and CPU cooler combo for $250. It was posted in my local area on the Facebook Marketplace. It features an Intel i5 6600K, which, by the way, that's a really solid quad-core chip. If you have that in your computer, that's a really good gaming processor, especially if you overclock it, which, by the way, with that particular cooler, you could probably get an overclock on this particular chip up to 4.6, 4.7, 4.8 gigahertz. I don't think you would start to brush up against 5 gigahertz on Skylake. You really have to wait around till Coffee Lake until you can really start pushing up to the 5 gigahertz easily, at least. And then we have the motherboard, which is an MSI Gaming Pro Carbon, presumably the Z170 variant of it, though I don't see it on the listing anywhere. But it's this last sentence that really throws me over the edge. It says, CPU alone retails for $240. Yes, technically, this is an honest listing that is correct. Technically. But that really brings me into the problem that I have with listings like this that are really a little bit nefarious, if you're being generous, dishonest. Though technically it is truthful, it seems like it's a little disingenuous at best, because we're talking about a CPU that is not current gen, it's not last gen, and yes, when you do find them for a brand new listing, like on Amazon, Walmart's website, that sort of thing, you do typically see the 6600K going for somewhere around $240. And let me show you what I mean. So on Amazon right now, you can find the 6600K for $248.99. And then as for the motherboard, if we click on the buying options here, we can find them used, but like new quality, at least according to the listings, for as little as $120. So if you're an outsider looking at this deal just purely from a dollars and cents perspective, and you think that this is the brand new generation of CPUs, you haven't done a lot of research, you don't know a lot about building a gaming PC, you're looking at this saying, okay, I have $120 wrapped up into my motherboard, I have another $250 or so wrapped up into the CPU. Right there, we're already sitting at $370 or so. And then if you add another $30 on for the cooler that's featured in this listing, you're looking at a $400 package, but this particular combo is listed at $250. Hey, that sounds like a great deal. But the thing is, it's really not a great deal, because we're talking about a quad-core processor on an older generation of processor. Now, if you're looking at the modern generations, Coffee Lake processors, for instance, if you're looking at an unlocked quad-core, you're talking about the 8350K from Intel, which right now, click over to it here, we can find these 8350Ks for $170 brand new. So to be fair to this listing, $250 for a CPU and a motherboard seems like a great deal. So we have $170 here though. And then we move over to the motherboard. We're talking about another $110-ish. So we're talking about $280 total for the motherboard and CPU. And then of course adding a cooler would push that likely over the $300 mark. But if you look even more into it, maybe you're trying to get the best overall performance, you can go over and buy a Ryzen 7 apparently 2600, which is not the processor I was at all trying to pull up here. But you can get a Ryzen 7 1700 for $160 brand new, and then add on a $92 motherboard here, and suddenly we are looking at a combination price of a motherboard, CPU for a similar price as this used listing. And the Ryzen CPU actually comes with a decent cooler that you can get a decent overclock on. You're not going to cap out a 1700 at 4 gigahertz probably with the stock cooler, but you can definitely get to 3.8, maybe even 3.9 gigahertz depending on the silicon lottery there. But my whole point is this. A listing like this original listing, this CPU Mobo CPU cooler combo, its pricing isn't completely crazy outrageous, but I think they're relying on people not really knowing the market, not really understanding that this is essentially selling a combo at a barely used price. You would expect to buy a combo like this for much cheaper than $250. In fact, I recently did a video about a Skylake i5 system. It was a 6400 though, so it's a locked system, to be fair, but I had 12 gigabytes of RAM. It came with a hard drive. The only thing I really did to this system was put a new power supply and a different case with it, but that entire system, that entire base Skylake system, I bought for less than $200, and it came ready to go. In fact, it was a functional system out of the box. Really, all I needed to do with it to turn it into a gaming computer was to add a GPU. I decided to upgrade the aesthetics as well, but that's all I really needed to do. Whereas this is just the motherboard CPU combo with a good cooler on it. It's relying on a little bit of a disingenuous seller here, or rather a disingenuous listing to get it done. And I think this is one of the major problems and one of the major deterrents for people when they're thinking about getting into PC gaming in general. It's really hard to talk people into going through the hoops of jumping through a lot of research and that sort of thing. Whereas on the console side of the debate, where we move over to get the gaming argument, a gamer that's looking for a console, just, you Google the console that you want. There's a fairly simple understanding that an Xbox One is there, and then there's the Xbox One X. And yes, you can get better performance on the One X, and most people understand that, or there's the original Xbox One. There's two options though, and it's really easy to shop when there's two options. It's also really easy to research when there's just two options. So this is just me sort of complaining at this point. This listing sort of got me set off through a mini temper tantrum maybe when I first saw it. And really, I want to hear from you guys. What do you think about listings like this? Am I overreacting? Is this really just not overpriced? Is this something that you would look into buying yourself? Despite, in my opinion, far better options in the new market. And that's not even touching on the used market and the ability to find some of these chips used for much cheaper and putting together the system. Maybe instead of a combo, though, you have to buy the CPU, motherboard separate, all that. Anyways, I'm rambling. I want to know what you think about this situation. Do you think this is a problem that may actually deter people from getting into PC gaming or building their own computers, whether it's for gaming or other reasons? Let me know all your thoughts on this issue down below. And of course, if you like this video and you like sort of commentary and this sort of thing, give this video a like, share, subscribe. All those things do help out. I'll put the handle here for Twitter and Instagram. You can find me on both of those at Hoosier Hardware. I can't really talk right now, but at Hoosier Hardware, both on Instagram and on Twitter. And as always, I'll let YouTube queue up a couple more videos around me from my channel for you to watch. I'm Shane with Hoosier Hardware. I just mispronounced Hoosier Hardware. I'm Shane with Hoosier Hardware, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.